Hello. Well, being 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, I think let's get started. So I'm Axel Kruger, president at ENGworks, and I wanted to introduce who's going to be our speaker today, which is Luciana De Simone. Luciana
everyone.
is one of our business development executives. And for those that don't know us, or we are ENGworks is a BIM services company, and a lot of our work is around helping contractors and trade contractors with the modeling process, the BIM coordination, and all the different outputs of that process, which includes layout drawings, robotic extension point clouds, and all the prefabrication outputs such as spooling and MAJ files and so forth. And the reason I bring this in, and also the purpose of this webinar is since a big part of Luciana's day-to-day job is to help contractors that are addressing a project, whether they're bidding or they have been awarded a project, they have like BIM requirements. So do not expect deep technical BIM aspects of the webinar, because we are rather wanted to share some of sort of the experience from what we are seeing every time we speak with our clients, and help you understand where should you find BIM requirements, what do you need to take in account to or you need to budget in for when you have BIM requirements on a project, and how to take advantage of the BIM requirements. Again, and this is whether you are gonna take the BIM aspect internally in one of your projects, or whether you're gonna do it with some outside consultant. So I think for both cases it applies. So with this, I like to let Luciana start. Just one thing for those that have a little like nerdy spirit, that in a few weeks, June 24th through 27th, we are organizing a free online hackathon, where basically the goal is, since we haven't been able to do events and be at events this year, try to gather with excuses, trying to solve a specific problem that you have in mind in a 3-day hackathon. So with that, I leave you with Luciana. Thank you.
Thank you, Axel. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Well, to start, I guess, kind of like the idea that Axel had, and the idea behind this webinar actually came from the amount of times that we reach out to companies, asking if they're bidding a project, or if they're working on a project, and if they have their BIM scope covered. And quite a few times we've had the answer, I don't know what BIM is, or I don't know what you guys do. Hopefully that is not the case with everyone in here, but it did give us the idea to where to go with this particular webinar. So we kept going back to this and thinking, how much easier could it be for estimators or anyone in charge of budgeting a project that's not familiar with BIM? How much easier would it be for them to know what it is and what to look for when you have the gigantic document of requirements for a project? So you know what to look for. You can take it later to your team or to your BIM partner, whoever, and you know what to give them, and you understand what the process is behind this. So I guess the first question that we have is, what is BIM? I'm not gonna read a textbook for this. I'm no architect, I'm no engineer. But I do know that the best thing you can do, the first thing you should do before jumping into a BIM project, is know this. BIM is not just a 3D model. It's a system, it's a construction method. Our favorite word to describe it is usually a process. And I think the best word to understand it is probably process, because that's, in the end, that's what it is. It involves creating a digital model. It involves creating 3D environment of a construction process, but it's not just, the model. It's a process of creating well-structured, easily accessible digital data about a building. And it involves lots of people. It involves communication and back and forth and feedback and discipline. It's so much more than just a team of people doing the modeling for you. So my point here is, the first thing to understand is that BIM is a construction process made collaborative and easier and more efficient and more profitable through digital techniques. So that being said, the next thing to be aware of is, well, what can I use it for? Well, the most common purposes, and there are tons of them, but the most common purposes for a model are are pre-construction, prefabrication, architectural, and structural. You have laser scanning, scan to BIM. You have design drawings. You have as-built conditions, and you have facility management, and so many more uses for a BIM model. And what I'm trying to say with this is, please don't take this just as another requirement. The important thing is, with all this, what do you need as a company? You're gonna have to do the BIM model anyway. You might as well take advantage of it. Regardless of what the requirements may ask of you, you should also know what your company needs to make the best of this model. You have to do it anyway. You might as well, get the best of it and make it more profitable, and help you save so much from the construction process itself. So I don't know, ask yourself, as a company or as an estimator, do you need scheduling data? Do you need cost data? Do you need bill of materials? Do you need brands, models, quantity information? There's so much more that could be made easier with the model. And sometimes we don't even know that we have that information available, that we can just, with a bit of work, of course, but we can pull it from the model, and you can have it in a spreadsheet or in a paper in front of you. If you're an MEP contractor, you have a tremendous opportunity in prefabrication. You can pull fabrication deliveries from the model. You can have shop drawings, spool drawings. You can have the MAJ files for your cutting machines. You can have, I actually have some samples for this that I can show you guys. For example, this is a final clash detection report that you can have. This is probably the first thing that we get from the BIM model. But then you can have, this is an LOD 400 composite drawing. You can have every single system in one layout drawing. You can see the detail. You can have spools for fabrication, either they're with little detail like this one, or you can have one that has, from the spool details to the layout drawing, where it's located, where it connects to the rest of them, the schedule. You can have everything in a spreadsheet for you from the model. We have some samples of sleeve layouts, sleeve drawings. This is a hanger layout drawing. You can have so much information in a model that, and honestly, sometimes you don't know that you can pull off all this from a model. So, make it worth it. Take the best advantage that you can from this, since you already have to do it anyway. What else? You can have RTS points. We can pull that from the model too. If you're working with trimble points, you can have that file and you can use it later on. You can have, if you're the owner of the project, there's a lot of things that you can take advantage from. If you need facility management data, you could create a digital twin of your building with all the information that you need for operations and maintenance. You could have work orders happening. You could have maintenance, preventive maintenance, corrective maintenance. You could have predictive maintenance happen, which I learned about this not too long ago, that uses, the model, and it uses analytics to review the asset's conditions and the environment conditions, and it projects, because it's not the same than the the preventive maintenance that it's done according to the fabric orders, according to factory instructions. You have analytics. You can review your environment and then predict if something could potentially happen to your assets before that time, and actually get there on time to fix it. You can have asset management, where you can pull from every single asset that you have inside your building. You can pull information, you can pull manuals, warranties, inventory, anything that's being provided and previously done to that asset. You can have it in your model. You can look it up on your iPad or cell phone. It's really great, to take it a step further with facility management. You could have all the information of every system at your fingertips. So it really hurts my heart when we talk to clients and they tell me that BIM was required in a project, and then they decided to remove it for budget reasons, because the biggest benefit of BIM is reducing construction, thanks to solving the problems beforehand. You can see everything in the model. We just saw a clash detection. You can fix that digitally in the model, and then you're not going to go to the field and find out that you have, I don't know, something clashing in there, and you're going to have to take down a wall or something to fix it. I promise you, it's going to be way more expensive than investing in a BIM model from beforehand. Depending on the trades, but this is a number that we've been seeing within the company. But when you cut up the BIM from a project, what you're actually cutting off goes from an 0.25 to a 1% of the total value of the project. It's nothing in comparison. If you put it into perspective, you're risking potential issues during construction that is gonna it's gonna be a pain to fix, when you could actually fix it digitally without nothing happening in the construction. So, well, knowing all this, let's read some specs. BIM is there. Sometimes it's easier to find it within the documents. Sometimes you have to dig a little bit deeper. We come across these project specs that have thousands of pages, and you have to look for that one line that says that BIM is going to be needed in the project. And I guess you estimators, you're as used to us as reading these monsters of documents, and this is obviously not going to be about how to read it, but I want to show you how BIM requirements can look on those pages, so it's easier to pinpoint them, and you're like, oh, okay, there it is. They can be these are the main places where you can find them. They're usually there within either general requirements or the contracting requirements, or if you're lucky, you're going to find within the specs an entire different separate document exclusively for BIM and their requirements. That's the best thing that can happen to you. But sometimes you have to dig within the requirements and the contracting requirements to find it, but it's there. They could also be, sometimes it doesn't happen as often, but sometimes if the project is too complex or something, they include the BIM requirements into every trade, so you have to go to every trade specific section to find them. But usually they're in these three sections. You're gonna be able to find them quite easily. So but in terms of how they look, you can find anywhere from the very poor, like this example that I have here. It's one line, one item that says resolution of BIM component conflicts. And that is the only clue that we have that the project is going to require BIM. Then we have to do our research and ask questions and investigate. But that line alone is enough for you to know that you're going to have to take BIM into account when budgeting. Then you can have a medium or standard piece of document that looks a little bit like this. It has a little bit more detail. It tells you who the prime contractor is going to be, who the lead coordinator is going to be. Sometimes you can find the LOD, or it has a little bit of specific information that can help you, but it's still very vague. And then you can have, as I said, the entire different document that I have an example here too. Oh. Oh Lord, I can't drag it. There we go. Okay. Now we have it. This is an example of our entire different section of the document that is exclusively made for the BIM requirements. I'm going to go into detail a little bit later on, but as you can see, this is like 4 or 5 pages. Well, this one is 2. I have another one that's like 4 or 5 pages, and it will tell you hopefully everything you need to know. But you can have, the details of technical aspects from that the drawings will need, from a schedule of the modeling, who's going to be in charge, who's going to responsibilities, who's going to be checking what softwares do you need to use. Hopefully all this is going to be here. But as I said, sometimes we don't have this. More often than not, we don't have this at hand. So you gotta learn, to look for the little details within the document, which is our next topic. What to look for? I guess once you know the BIM is required, there's certain information that I've been, mentioning that you need to know, and it's regarding the details of the model itself. Is what you're going to have to take to your BIM team or to your BIM partner or your third-party BIM partner. This is the information that's going to be most valuable to them. So if you can find it beforehand, it really saves time for everyone, and it helps you know what you're going to have to estimate in the end. You can usually find this information in the submittal sections or the coordination drawing sections of the general requirement documents. But mostly if you have, this is when I go back, if you have a document like the one I just showed you, which again is one of the best cases scenarios. Acrobat doesn't like me today. I don't know what's happening. It's really mad at me for some reason. Okay, there we go. Again, this is it makes me so happy when I find this, because they make it so much faster and easier. But you have this document. I play a lot with highlighting and commenting, because then I'm gonna send this document to my to the project manager in charge. So if I can highlight something that I think it's important, that I know that they cannot miss, I use it a lot. And we also do a lot of keyword search in this. Hit that Control F and look for keywords. We if they're there, you're gonna find them. We usually search for the word BIM. Obviously, we search for the word VDC, Revit, which is like the most used software for this. The word LOD, I'm gonna go there that later. You have the word 3D, coordination meeting, anything that could help you identify BIM requirements. Look it up. It's going to make it so much easier, because if there's BIM in the document, it's 99% chances you're going to find the actual word in there. So save yourself some time, Control F everything. And then again, a little bit of a tip. I don't know if you already do this, but I it really helps a lot when I find something very specific that I think the PM should know. Highlight it, comment it. Sometimes BIM requirements you can find like a very specific requirement that is not usual. For example, I don't know, we've had examples of okay, you're gonna have to add 300 extra hours in the architectural scope, so you can update the architectural model as the modeling happens. That's an extra requirement that doesn't usually happen, but you can find it within the document if they actually want it. I'm gonna take this back. I hope Adobe loves me. So, you have your BIM requirements specific section, you have the coordination drawings or submittal procedures section. You're gonna find, what you need to deliver, schedules, file formats. That's useful for everybody there. You also have, as I mentioned, you have the LOD, which, it's important if you have it. It's not always there. I wish it was, because it would be really helpful for everyone, but it's not always there. And you always have to check if you can find it. The level of detail, or LOD, as we usually call it, it's basically the amount of graphic data that the model is going to have. So you need to know that, because it really changes things. The most commonly used are 300, which is usually used for architecture and structure only, or for like early stages or the design model, because it's kind of pretty basic when it comes to detailing. Then you have 350, which is the industry standard. It includes location, it includes orientation, connections. You can add hangers there. It's way more elevated in detail than the 300. And then the other most commonly used is 400, which is what we usually call as a fabrication level, because it's an upgrade from 350 that includes detailing and fabrication specifics, like prefab itself, assembly, installation information. You can pull the spool drawings from 400 LOD model. So again, this everything about this asks you to sit down and review, and if the requirements specify the LOD, that's the bare minimum needed from the model. But you have to think about what you need. If they're asking you for a 350, but you have a shop, well, I don't even know if I have to tell you that it would be way better for you to upgrade it to a 400. You can have your entire fabrication prefab sorted there. So it's really it really comes to looking back to your own company and to what you do, and see where you can take this model. What else? Know the software that you're gonna use, the platforms, the versions that you or that your outsourced BIM partner are going to need to know in order to participate from this coordination. The most used are Revit for the modeling itself. Navisworks is used for the overall coordination and class detection, and then you can have cloud-based platforms to interact with everyone involved. One of them could be BIM 360, for example. It's used a lot, but it's really important for everyone involved to know beforehand, so you don't go to your BIM team or partner with the project, and then you realize that it involves a software that you don't use or you cannot use or something, and then you're like, oh, we're gonna have to back off from this because we don't have the software or something. What else? The layout drawing specifications. Mostly, it's technical details, elements, and information that the models and the drawings must have. This, I think you'll get this more than me, or probably your PM will get this more than me, but it's, information regarding, I don't know, the minimum diameters, what items to show, what not to show, scales, every specification for every single system and trade is going to be there. And as important as that is for the layout drawings themselves, it impacts directly on the model. So that's something that you have to look for. And then last one, as I just mentioned, any specific requirement to include in the BIM scope of work. Well, I just mentioned an example of the 300 extra hours of architecture. You could have I don't know, scan required for an as-built modeling. Maybe we had actually a project not too long ago that needed as-built, and we had to update it. One of the requirements was to update the as-built model. I think it was bi-weekly or something, and that's not regular scope. So those are things that you have to look for, that you have to keep an eye on. Highlight them, send them to your team. Hey, I saw this. What is this? Everything that you have that you don't know, or that leaves your regular scope, keep an eye on it, because it's probably going to be super important later on. So with this being said, this was the marvelous case of having the entire BIM document at hand, which happens often, but not always. What happens when you don't have anything? What happens when you have that first sheet that we saw that had, that little line that said, BIM conflicts needs to be solved, and that's all you know? Well, in this case, I like to look at it from two ways. That's how I like to, organize it. If you're bidding the project, if it's not awarded yet, I would suggest, going with the industry standard. Go with the LOD 350 for pre-construction. Of course, if you know this is a fabrication level project, you go with 400. That's of course. But if it's not, if you don't have any information, go with industry standard. You cannot go wrong with that. Check the submittals. As we just saw, that information is super useful because it needs to be on the model. All the information that you can pull from the specs, even if it's not for the model itself, it's going to help. And then you can, submit your bid with the industry standard model and update it once the BIM requirements become available, or once, the award is given. And then if awarded, it's really up to the contractor's needs. And it takes us back to with the what do I do question, what I've been saying. What do I need from this? The project is yours. You're gonna have to do BIM anyway. What do I want to take from this? Could I use, bill of materials? Could I benefit from the fabrication deliverables? Could I make it 4D and add time and cost to the model? It's really up to you. If you want to stay in the required or the standard LOD, or if you want to, take it further and do more and gain more from it. So we're almost at the end here. So I wanted to close this with a couple of things that you should also know that could potentially, help you out, lower the cost of your BIM model. This, I guess, are more, like tips and tricks that we've gained from working on this every day. I had a, I put this together with my team, and we were all like, yeah, this works. And first of all, consider within your budget that you will need the drawings. I cannot tell you how many times we have someone come to us and tell us, hey, your quote is super high comparing to this other guy. And we're like, okay, can I ask you one question? Did they include the drawings? And they're like, oh, it happens so often. And it really changes the number, and it really, really will impact if you don't realize that you don't have the drawings within your budget, and then you're gonna be like, you're not gonna have the drawings to work with. The best thing you can do is send your crew to the field with a composite layer drawing that has everything clash-free, ready for installation. So it's not just that you can have the documents, you're gonna see them, you're gonna have references. Don't forget about the drawings. Then design models, they're usually provided by the architect. If they're available, if you can have them, let your BIM team review them. Let them see them, because if they're in good shape, they could save you a lot of time and work, because the modeling is not going to have to be from scratch. They can take a lot of reference and a lot of information from there. And it could, of course, save you a lot of money, because it means less hours for the modeling team. So if you have the design models, if you can ask for them, do it. Try to get them and take them to your BIM team for review. Then some other thing that I think it's nice if it's possible. It's a single source modeling. It's pretty much, when you have one BIM team in charge of the coordination and the modeling of the entire project. it could sound like a risky move, to have everything done by the same people, but at the same time, everything is done by the same people. So, everyone is aligned with the rhythms, with the way of working. It involves the same people working together, and it means running a smoother coordination, a faster coordination, and if possible, it also saves a lot of time. What else? You should also check the meetings requirements. Do they have to be on site? Can they be, remote? We usually, for example, we work a lot remotely, but it's something that you have to check, because if you have for example, a third party BIM partner, they need to know if they're going to have to be there, or if they can just join from a Zoom meeting like this one. And then talk to your people, involve your crew. Make sure that you allocate time in your budget for your shop and your field guys to be involved. There is no better feedback than theirs. They're the ones that are going to go to the site with the paper in their hands, and they're going to be like, oh, this really helped me out, or oh, I couldn't do anything with this. So involve them, show them everything, get them, get feedback, have a chat, have a back and forth with them. It's really, really useful for you, for the modeling team, for the people involved in the BIM modeling. It's really useful for them to know, hey, I showed the drawing to my guys on the site, and they were like, we don't understand this, or this is messy, or it's not clear. And we work with computers, we can fix it. We can do it again if we have to, and customize it for you. So do that, get them involved, sit down with one of the samples and say, okay, is this going to work for you? Do you need more information? Do you need less information? Is it crowded? Is it messy? Is it clear? Do you need anything? Feedback is so important in this job. So please talk to everyone. And then last, and kind of following the same route, not least, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Whether you know BIM, you don't know BIM, it doesn't really matter. If you're a subcontractor and you have questions, ask your GC. If you're a GC, ask the owner. I don't think anyone is gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna give you that information. That doesn't happen. If you see that the project requires BIM, but you're not sure, or you don't have clear information, ask them, hey, I saw that this requires BIM. What is the required LOD, or what's the purpose of the model? Is it pre-construction or is it fabrication? I don't know. Is there a BIM execution plan available? Are we going to have the document in our hands, or do we have to find someone to do it for us? Are the design models available? Anything that you can think of. Knowing what to ask, knowing what information you need is key when the BIM requirements are lacking in details. Because if you know what you need, then you know what to ask, and I promise you that the answers will come from whoever you ask. So I'm hoping that with this you will know what to ask. And to wrap up, I think the most important thing to know is, what do you need from the model, and being able to recognize the ways in you could take advantage of it. Since you're required to do it anyway, you might as well make the best of it. And well, if this if this made you want to implement BIM in projects, even if they don't require it, then I'll take that as my biggest win. But mostly my message here is, get to know what your company needs to make the best of a model, because it really saves time, and it really saves construction costs, and it's going to help a lot. That's basically my take on this. So wrapping up, we're going to have a bit of a Q&A time in case anyone has questions. But before that, I have some really quick reminders. First of all, please remember that a recording of this and the presentation of this webinar is going to be sent to you shortly. So if you logged into the Zoom meeting with another email that is not the one you registered with, or if you're on your phone, please let us know. You can send me a message through the chat here, or you can email us at ENGworks@ENGworks.com to make sure that we send you the information and we don't, lose your information somewhere. And then a friendly reminder of our free upcoming events. We have the BIM hackathon is going to be happening on June 24 to 27. It's going to be super fun. There's a lot of people involved. The jury is great. Please check it out. You're going to have a link when we send this to you. And then this has been the second webinar in a series of webinars that we decided to call Webinar Wednesday, happening, of course, on the first Wednesday of every month. So we look forward to seeing you on the next one. It's how to use Forge Viewer. And it's going to happen on July 1st. So you can also register online, and you can find everything about our free upcoming events in ENGworks.com/events. So that's over. Let's go to the Q&A. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
I have a question. Do you? Oh, sorry, I don't even have my camera.
Oh, it's okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I wonder, do you guys ever get the famous ERAs, or the employers' requirements? When that solve, right?
ERAs?
Right. They're like, usually, from what I understand, well, in Canada they do this. In Canada and England, you usually get from the client, you already get a document saying what their requirements are for the BIM, for everything they need. Basically, it's not usual in Argentina. It's definitely not a thing. But I wonder if you guys get that often, or is it not often at all?
I think it's kind of halfway. If it's inbound, if we get an inbound request, more often than not, I like to say that more often than not, we do get it. We do have that information, but we also, we work a lot with an outbound team, and sometimes even the inbound is like, hey, I don't have any details, I just know that I have to do it. So
Okay.
I think it's a halfway thing.
Okay, so basically your budget would be done with whatever they would give you from that information and whatever questions you might have afterwards. Like,
yeah, I
it's
mean,
not
we
really
do
detailed.
get the plans, and we do get the specs, and we do get the addendums and everything.
Oh, okay.
But sometimes we don't have the specific BIM information, because more often than not, they don't even have it yet, because it's like a bidding project or so. So
Right.
they send us the plans and every available document, and we take it to the technical estimators, to our project managers, and they check every single drawing of the plans, every single spec, every single addenda, and then they're
Right.
able to put together a quote.
Right. So it's very, very specific to the projects.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. How many levels of design are in BIM? We have a question here. Oh God.
How many levels of design is it?
Yes, level of design or level of detail. I'm hoping you're asking about level of detail.
How many LODs? Maybe LODs from Michael Plummer.
Yes, I'm guessing it's LODs.
Well, if that's the question,
yes,
well, theory, right? Not practical. You have LOD 100, you have 200, you have 300, you have 350, 400, and 500. Reality, what you're gonna see out there is most common. If you're in design, you're gonna find LOD 200 or 300. If you're in construction, you're gonna find LOD 350 or 400. Now, you might find in more like complete BIM requirements LOD 500 as a turnover handover to the owner, but there is some left in the LOD 500. There is a sort of a lot of theory around it, and the reality that 500 it's not so much detail on the geometry of a model, but rather in the information contained, right? Versus the previous LOD, the 400, it's heavier on the level of detail of the geometry, specific parts or products that are going to be installed. I don't know if that answers the question. Where can I find definitions of each LOD contains? Oh, on the BIM forum, Michael, we'll send you, or we can send it to everybody, but it's on the AGC BIM forum.
I'm pretty sure Nick is in contact with him. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure. We'll make sure to send you everything, Michael.
But if you, for example, if you Google LOD BIM forum, you find it there.
Yeah. But we will send you a shorter version of that.
Yeah, I'll send it. I'll send it, Michael. No worries.
There you go. Yep.
Ah, there you go.
Awesome.
BIM forum is sort of like a group within the that started, sort of a like nonprofit group that started within the American General Contractors Association, and basically they have developed, starting from the AIA, the American Institute for Architects, that started with this LOD definition. They develop it further so that you also have the construction LODs. So yeah.
There's a lot of information to find, to post it on the BIM forum. It's pretty much every standard and definition and information that we use to work comes, most cases comes from the BIM forum. Any other questions?
At the beginning, you mentioned that sometimes BIM, I guess, is VE'd out by the owner. But when BIM is, I guess, instituted to the project, do you guys see much of a cost savings and schedule savings over the course of the project? Because I think that's what we're trying to push owners is, yeah, there's like cost up front, but on the back end, you're going to see this big savings of cost or the schedule decrease. Has anybody seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Or is there percentages that someone could maybe throw out there, just a ballpark?
The percentages are all over the place. I mean, you can hear someone tell you 5% and some other like more a little ambitious talking about 30%. So I mean, the like studies are, I mean, they all have their subjective input, right? So it's hard to really see the impact. What I can tell you is low-hanging fruit is when you do just spatial coordination. But then if you go one step further and you start leveraging prefabrication, there is where you see like very, very tangible, like sort of instead of, needing like 1 month to install stuff, you maybe do the same thing in 2 days. I mean, so radical because you prefab everything on a shop. So big impact to us at least, or from our experience, is when you start prefabricating. That's where you're going to see like the big number, and that's what is actually happening. There is certain type of jobs that the big guys, the big contractors, since they're already set up and they have their shops and they leverage BIM to the full extent, but not all BIM alone, right? Like having their shops and prefabricating, it's a big part of it, right? In that case, you see the smaller guys not being able to compete because they do everything on site and not no prefabrication. On a typical without prefabrication, you see significant savings on laying out out of, first of all, having a coordinated model and the drawings coming out directly from there. And for example, you have certain technology like robotic stations and like the numbers there, for example, if to lay it out, the 5 people job can be replaced for 1 person and a robotic station, for example, in layout. So you have different components where you can see very tangible returns of investment, right? Sort of 10x, 20x or more return of investments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have another question. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Hi.
I'm going to show my face too then.
Okay.
Even I don't have a haircut I haven't had a haircut for 3 months or 4.
We're all the same.
Couldn't tell.
Yeah.
So when it comes, I do sales and estimation, mostly commercial projects, and BIM is one of those mysteries for me. So since my understanding is it's called LODs, right? Level of development, and mostly construction is 400. Is that correct?
350 and 400. 350 and 400. Typically 350 is when there is no prefabrication intent, and 400 if there is if the model is going to be used for prefabrication, right?
Okay. So if I wanted to be able to make sense of the BIM requirements in the specifications of a project, and coming that I have very little knowledge of the actual terms used, how do I begin that process? How do I start to say, okay, I understand? It's like if I read a plumbing spec or a mechanical spec or a duct spec or all these other specs, I understand them, but the BIM spec still is kind of out in the cloud for me.
I don't think, Lou and or Nico, you can complete, but I don't think you need to understand it all, right? You need to understand enough to be dangerous. And I think that means, first of all, figuring out if there is actually a BIM requirement at all. And in the general, for example, like it depends on type of jobs, how in detail, as Luciana said, how in detail those requirements are. I think by just in the general requirements section 00, I think 013113 or something. I mean, general requirements, you typically, if you, if you search the word BIM or 3D or coordination or Revit, we have a few words that we typically search. We can pass them to you. I mean, when we want to, because obviously we go through many projects and we want to do it quick. So that's the first thing you have to search for. Once you are there, it's I think, I mean, you what type of contractor are you guys?
Currently I'm plumbing, but I've also done mechanical, and I guess the thing I'm trying to drive at is I will get proposals from companies like yours, and it will be 10 pages long, and if I can't understand the BIM spec, then I really don't know what you're offering me. I'm making guessing, right? So I need to be a little bit more than just dangerous. I need to be able to be at least at a layman's level to where I can understand some of the terms used and things like that.
Okay. Well, I mean, without, I mean, pretending kind of create this knowledge in a few minutes now, but I mean, something, I mean, from the
and I don't expect that.
No, true. But like from I mean, like being on a mechanical or plumbing contractor, I mean, typically your very standard requirement is going to be create a model of your trade. So that has to exist. That could be, if you guys do not prefabricate, probably you're good with LOD 350, right? It's good enough. 300, it is going to be not enough, because 300, you don't have the hangers, and hangers have a big impact in spatial coordination. So if someone quotes 300, it's not enough for you. So
when you're quoting these BIM models, you actually quote under terms of level of development. So you might say, I'm giving you LOD 350 and LOD 300 and LOD 400.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. So that's sort of like how far you go and how much stuff you put in the model and how specific you are in the content of the model.
Okay. So, and I'm going to look at the forum because I've already pulled the forum up. on my other monitor. But is there going to be, and I hate to use the word, you've had these, like computers for dummies and all that other thing, books. So is there something that can kind of get me into first base to where I can look at the spec and I can look at the proposal and I can say, okay, they've missed something or they've got it all. So
you know what? I mean, you just gave me a great idea. Creating like speaking of the for dummies, you just gave me a great idea, and it wouldn't take a whole lot to put it together. It would be, I mean, it's actually a great idea. And I think like the first thing to come to my mind, again, without having anything prepared on that, but one thing is the level of detail, right? I mean, when do you need to ask what? Then you need to make sure that the third party or your in-house guys have accounted for enough time to be in the coordination process, assisting all the meetings, make sure they are in the meetings.
I've done conflict meetings, and when I was with another company, I got enough training in BIM to where I worked with our in-house engineer and kind of went through he handled the conflicts, but I was just the general overall. Now I'm kind of in a different role where I really got to get into the detail.
Well, in that case, for example, I mean, but still, like going to, I mean, you need to put to budget that then your overall budget, right? That's right. The whole goal, really, right? So you need to make sure whether it's in-house or you're sourcing it out, that outsource or you're in your inside, they do allocate time for coordination meetings and then to actually do the coordination. So adjust the models according to what in the coordination meeting was decided, right?
Gotcha. And so it will always be outhouse for us. It'll never be in-house. We'll always be using an outside vendor. I mean, our project managers will sit in on conflict, the conflict meetings, but everything else is going to be outsourced. So we don't have in-house people for BIM at all.
Okay. But then let me add something where you do need to allocate time for in-house. And I don't know how you price your in-house time. Have your field foreman be part of the coordination process. So that is, I mean, it's not something that you send so to some outside company, it comes back done or something, because then you need the input of your field guy, right? Whether it's during the meetings, but then allocate some time for them outside the meetings. Now, keep going with that. I mean, like with like outside items that you need to have as Luciana said, drawings, right? After models are coordinated, you want to make sure you have minimum layout drawings, right? XYZ bottom heights. I mean, drawings that reflect that, so that the guys can go in, because the guys that are gonna install, they're gonna install out of drawings, right? I mean, like for the most part, right?
Plus, I don't know that they're working off the 3D model though. See, that's one of the things I have to find out. I don't know if they're just working with the the construction set. That's one of those things that we're doing a lot of schoolwork and other things, and I don't know in our area if we're at that level where we're actually utilizing the BIM drawings on a daily basis, or if it's something the project manager just looks for conflict. So that's kind of a little bit of a mystery to me as well.
Well, from what we have seen from, I would say like 99% of our clients, they do leverage the drawings. They do leverage the drawings. And again, without, I mean, only layout output outside drawings. The other thing that I would definitely recommend if you're using robotic station, whether it is like Trimble or Topcon or any of those.
And we are not.
Okay.
We are not using a robotic station at this time. Okay. We have considered it, but I think at this point it doesn't seem. And the reason I initially asked all of this is because the general contractors I've worked with seem to be a little foggy on their knowledge of BIM, but obviously the owner who's requiring the BIM is not. So it's like when I'm budgeting it and then I'm approving someone to do the BIM, it's kind of I'm assuming they're going to do their job because they said they would. And if there's ever a problem, then I guess the battleship gets sunk because I don't have enough knowledge to be able to interpret or figure out what needs to be done. Does that make sense?
Yep. But I mean, and then going to what's the minimal you have to ask for, do ask for creation of the model, coordinating the model, which means moving things around, be part of the coordination meetings, and also create drawings, right?
Yeah.
And then,
So let me ask you a question. Do sometimes the owner or the architect will provide the BIM model for y'all? Does that happen? Is that correct?
yeah,
That is usually the design model.
The design.
Yeah, I mean,
model.
like if again with the plumbing model, I mean, here's what happens. Our architect model, you need it anyway as a background, right? But what about the pipe, like whether it's web or I mean, like whether it's gravity or
right.
hot, cold, whatever. What we typically find that the design model, when the engineer provides the design model, many times it's many times it's sort of a cartoony model, right? Because it has fittings that doesn't even exist. Maybe there is no slope on gravity piping, and that changes the whole coordination because I mean it's not reality. So many times you can like definitely leverage and utilize that model, and whoever gets that model, if it is decent, they can save a lot of time that third-party outsource to create a construction model. But sometimes they might not be able to use the design model because it's just, I mean, like done with the sole purpose of creating a construction document. And
they're focused on the 2D actually at the end.
Okay, and all of them, if I'm correct, you never get the 3D modeling from CAD. You always get it from Revit. So all of these drawings originally start in Revit. Is that correct?
Yeah. Correct.
Okay. Yes. Revit, or again, you have others. You have Fabrication, CAD MEP, and you have other. I mean, PD, 3D. There is other softwares out there, but in general, Revit is the most widely used. Yeah.
Okay.
And then there is
guys,
another. Depends. Oh, we're a little.
Sorry, I want to be respectful of everyone's time. We have an hour now. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
But I'll one more thing there. You might the other thing is like if you're doing a lot of school work, that's the requirement is typically concentrated around spatial coordination. Higher education type projects or some corporate, or not even talking healthcare, they require a few other things. I mean, in some cases you might see COBie, like construction, operation, information exchange. So it's FM data, basically. In some, you will have the requirement of also provide FM data within the models or outside the models in that format. That's something that
you mean facility management?
Yes. I mean, and again, we have hardly seen it in the school projects, in the K-12 and stuff. I mean, we haven't seen it much.
Seen it in the college projects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm familiar with it.
And also, I mean, like some, I mean, like for example, some corporate projects like Google. If a Google project that might be an office, right? They have very detailed information about the data they want in. So that's another scope that needs to be taken in account. Okay. And something that you might find here and there is the as-built model, right? Some cases they don't even care, but some cases it is required. So that's I think if I would have to think in like, I don't know, guys, Nico, Lucy, if you think of other like key things that he needs to look in for, I mean, that's.
Yeah, most of the times they actually ask for a record model or an as-built model, which is record model is the as-built that you actually keep updating regularly, like every month, every 2 months. So that's something that you need to, account when you're pricing as well, because it's not only the efforts you have for updating the models after each coordination meeting, but you also have to update the model according to the as-built conditions, right? So most of the times for us, it's I mean, for everyone, it's hard to estimate beforehand when you're bidding, because of course they are unpredictable. But that's something that of course you have to account when you're facing a BIM project. But going back to O&M or FM, yes, most of our higher education projects have these kind of requirements.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to take up anybody else's any more time. Maybe if you know, Nicholas, maybe we can have a little sidebar. And you said something about I gave you an idea for a project. So
we're definitely, I was gonna go back there. We're definitely gonna do something with the idea that you gave us.
No, but I
I'm
mean,
not sure
Michael,
what the idea was, but could I get 3% of it? I'll just take 3%, you know.
There you go. Deal.
Okay.
Good. No, but I'll definitely schedule like a private meeting to go through our proposal, your standards, our standards, project requirements.
And see, I'm bidding a school right now, and you know, the first thing I do is read
it.
all the documents. You know, so that's been a lot of fun for the last 2 days. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go look at, after this, I'm going to go look at the BIM spec and just kind of try to decipher it a little bit. And then maybe, you know, like I said, whenever you're able to reach out to me, go ahead and reach out.
Yeah, I mean, no
Definitely.
commitment. Just to at least give you some hint to how to interpret. I mean, like what you have to look for. So it takes less from your time, because I think you have to probably be estimating a whole lot of other aspects of the project. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks.
good.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay,
Luciana.
so again, I just want to remind everyone that we will be sending this recording and this presentation to everyone involved, so you will have that you know, visual help. And then, well, Q&A is over, but if you have any extra questions, if you have any comment, we would love to hear what you thought of this. Any feedback, any comment, whatever you want to tell us, you can reach out. Feel absolutely free to reach out to me. That's my personal information, my LinkedIn profile, my email. I'll be happy to talk to anyone who wants to ask any questions. Or you can also, you know, reach out at ENGworks@ENGworks.com. Any way you want to reach out to us, feel absolutely free. We would really love to know if you got anything, you know, special from this. We would love to hear it. Then last thing, again, I want to remind everyone, if you joined with another email or if you're on your phone or something, please let us know, send us an email so we know, because we're going to send this to the people that you know, that are here right now. So if you're on another email or on your phone or whatever, let us know, send us your email address so we make sure that information gets to you. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for everyone to join us today. This was fun.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you. It was really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Everyone.